Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going deep on this guy, Eric Hogue,
Okay.
who is both a magician and a mayor.
Wow.
How cool is that?
Oh,
And the source we have for this deep dive is a lecture he gave to a bunch of other magicians
interesting.
about how he used magic all through his time in politics.
I've never really thought about those two things together.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, right?
Yeah.
So, get this.
Okay.
This guy, Eric,
Uh-huh.
loved magic ever since he was like 12 years old.
Really?
Yeah, he even told this story about how bad he wanted that Mark Wilson magic course,
Oh, yeah.
but he couldn't afford it.
Oh, man. I bet that resonates with a lot of our listeners.
Totally. Everyone's been there.
Yeah, wanting to learn something, but you just can't.
Exactly.
For whatever reason.
And what's really interesting is that Eric was actually like super shy as a kid.
Oh, wow.
You never guess it, right? I mean,
No, not at all.
he was a mayor. But to get over his shyness, you know what he did?
What's that?
He started performing as a clown.
Really?
Clanky the Clown.
No way.
I know, right? So, like,
That's hilarious.
it's funny because a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Like being afraid of public speaking and
Yeah.
trying to find creative ways around it.
Exactly.
But anyway, so Eric had this magic teacher, Colonel Seymour,
Okay.
and Colonel Seymour really pushed him
Shoot.
to like perform and stuff,
Okay.
and eventually to ditch the whole clown thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how a good mentor can just totally change your life, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at Eric.
Exactly.
Total transformation.
And speaking of transformations,
Mhm.
Eric's skills as a magician actually like helped him get into politics.
What? Really?
Yeah. He won a seat on the Wiley City Council, and later on, he even became the mayor.
Wow.
It makes you wonder
What's that?
if all that experience with magic, like, you know, engaging an audience and creating illusions,
Yeah.
helped him in the world of politics.
It's like he was already a pro at
Presentation.
yeah, and connecting with people.
Exactly. And get this, during his time as mayor, Wiley just exploded in size.
What do you mean?
Like it went from a town of 12,000 people to almost 60,000.
Wow, that's crazy.
Right. So much pressure to like manage all that growth.
Totally. I can only imagine being a leader in that kind of situation.
Oh yeah, it must have been nuts.
Yeah.
And speaking of nuts, Eric told this story about
well,
there was this one business owner who was not happy with him.
really?
And he put up this sign that said, "Big problem. Darn mayor is a clown."
Ouch. That's harsh.
Yeah, right. But you know what Eric did?
What?
He just leaned into it.
What do you mean?
It's like, yeah, I used to be a clown.
No way.
Yeah. And he even told everyone he worked as Ronald McDonald to pay for college.
You're kidding.
Nope. I mean, talk about turning a negative into a positive, right?
Seriously.
Yeah.
You totally owned it and disarmed them with humor.
It's a great lesson for anybody, really.
Totally.
Like how to handle criticism.
Especially if you're in the public eye.
Yeah. You got to be able to roll with the punches. But, okay, it gets even weirder.
Oh boy.
Eric actually started incorporating magic into his speeches,
Like what?
like close-up magic.
Really?
Yeah, to illustrate points about city planning and the budget.
How does that even work?
He used tricks like the best ever knots off silks.
But what?
It's where you tie silks together and the knots disappear. And he also used the transforming cube.
I'm picturing like a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, so he's using these tricks to explain complex ideas.
Yeah.
Isn't that clever?
It's a really interesting way to get people's attention and make things relatable.
Definitely. And remember how we were talking about Wiley growing like crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Eric wanted to use magic to give back to the community.
That's awesome.
So he got together with the Dallas Magic Club,
Okay.
and they created this festival.
A magic festival.
Yeah, they called it the Magic of Wiley.
I love that.
It was to raise money for local organizations.
That's so cool. Like what organizations? Like the police department, the fire department, the animal shelter,
Wow.
even the library.
So it was a big success.
Oh yeah, they raised a ton of money.
That's fantastic.
Like in 1 year, they got $10,000 for the fire department.
Really?
Yeah, and they used it to buy new safety equipment.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Using your passion to make a real difference.
exactly. And you know how he got so much support for the festival?
How?
He used his position as mayor.
Okay.
He went to all the big businesses in Wiley,
Smart.
the ones who were benefiting from all the growth,
Yeah.
and he got them to sponsor the festival.
That's pretty clever, connecting the dots like that.
It was a win-win for everyone.
Absolutely.
But wait, there's more.
More.
This guy, Eric,
Uh-huh.
he didn't just stop at the local level.
What do you mean?
He wanted to get magic recognized as an art form nationally.
Whoa, that's a big goal.
Yeah. It all started when his friend,
Okay,
this magician named Dal Sanders, came to him with the idea.
I see.
And Eric being Eric, he was like, challenge accepted.
He sounds like a go-getter.
Totally. So he reached out to this congressman he knew,
Okay,
Pete Sessions,
okay.
from his time as mayor.
Connections are so important.
Right. You never know when they'll come in handy.
Exactly.
And you know what?
Yep.
In 2014, they actually got magic listed in the congressional record as an art form.
Wow, that's huge.
Right.
It might seem symbolic, but it has some real implications for magicians.
Exactly, like getting grants and funding.
Yeah, and protecting their work.
It helps people take magic more seriously.
Absolutely, like a real art form, not just entertainment.
So guess what?
What?
He didn't stop there.
Really?
In 2016, he teamed up with David Copperfield.
No way.
Yeah. And they worked on this House resolution
Dude,
to further solidify magic's status as an art form.
they were really going for it.
Oh yeah, they flew to DC,
Wow.
met with congressmen, even spoke at the Capitol.
That must have been incredible.
It didn't pass though.
Oh no.
Some political stuff got in the way.
What a shame.
But even though it failed, it got a lot of attention for magic.
I guess that's something.
Yeah, it put magic on the map in a big way.
That's true.
I
Okay.
want to talk about what Eric himself said about his own magic,
Yeah, me too.
like his style and how it's changed over the years.
Yeah, how has his magic evolved?
Well, first of all,
Uh-huh.
he's definitely moved beyond the beginner stuff.
Okay.
He's been studying with some of the greats,
Like, oh.
like Jeff McBride. But here's the thing. He said that even simple magic tricks can be super impactful
If.
if they have a story behind them.
That makes sense. It's about more than just the trick itself.
Exactly. Like he talked about his egg on my face trick.
Egg on his face.
I know, right? Sounds weird.
Yeah.
But it's all about the presentation.
I see.
He uses it to talk about his fear of making mistakes as mayor.
Oh, interesting.
It's like he's being vulnerable and relatable.
Yeah, and using humor to connect with people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how we can all use those kinds of techniques.
Definitely. In any field.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Not just magic.
Right.
Okay, so what about that 21st century silks trick?
Oh yeah. That one's based on a local legend from Wiley.
Oh, tell me about it.
It's about this ghost of a young woman who died in a car accident.
Oh, wow. Spooky.
Yeah, and she's supposed to hitchhike along this road.
No way.
So Eric weaves that story into his silk routine.
Clever.
It adds this whole other layer of mystery and suspense.
Yeah, and it connects the magic to something familiar.
Exactly. It creates this shared experience with the audience.
Really cool.
It makes you realize that magic is really just a form of storytelling.
I like that.
It's about creating moments of surprise and delight.
And connection.
Totally.
Yeah.
And as Eric's story shows us,
Yeah.
it can also be about building community and inspiring change.
And leaving a lasting impact.
Exactly. It's really inspiring
Yeah.
to see how he's taken something as simple as magic
Mm-hmm.
and used it to make a real difference.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into the world of Eric Hogue,
I think the big question is,
what's that?
how can we use our passions to create a positive impact?
The great question.
And one that's worth thinking about.
Definitely.
All right, so we've talked about Eric's journey from, clown to mayor,
Yeah.
his community building magic festival,
Right.
and even his efforts to get magic recognized as like a national art form.
It's been quite the deep dive.
It really has. But before we wrap things up, I want to go back to something he mentioned.
What's that?
Those Bico silks.
Oh, yeah. The ones he uses in his speeches.
Exactly.
He learned that from Jeff McBride, right?
Yep, Jeff McBride himself.
Wow.
For those who don't know,
Yeah.
Bico stands for Best Ever Knots Off.
Catchy.
Right. So you start with a bunch of silk scarves,
Okay.
all tied up in knots,
Uh-huh.
and then poof, the knots just disappear.
Magic.
Pure magic.
Yeah.
But it's not just a cool trick.
What else is it?
It's a metaphor.
Oh, I see.
During the Q&A,
Yeah.
someone asked Eric about the message behind that trick.
Yeah.
His answer was so interesting.
I bet. He always seems to find a deeper meaning in things.
He does.
Yeah.
He said he uses the Bico silks to show how important it is to be prepared.
Prepared for what?
For anything. To always have something up your sleeve.
I like that.
Right. And he said he often uses it when he's trying to
Convince someone of something.
yeah, like the fire chief or a business owner.
It's like a subtle way of showing your power, you know?
It is. I can handle any problem.
I can untie any knot.
Exactly. It makes you think about how we use communication
Yeah.
to get our message across.
Totally.
And to build trust.
All about the impression we make, right?
Right. And speaking of impressions,
Hmm.
let's talk about that other trick of his.
Which one?
The one based on that Wiley legend.
The 21st Century Silks.
Yes, the one with the ghost story.
Ooh, yeah. Tell me about that one.
Okay, so apparently in Wiley,
Yeah.
there's this legend about a young woman
Uh-huh.
who died in a car crash years ago. And people say her ghost hitchhikes along this one road.
Spooky.
Right. So Eric takes that story
Okay.
and he works it into his silk routine. It makes the whole thing so much more mysterious.
And suspenseful.
Totally. It's like he's tapping into this local folklore.
Using it to connect with his audience.
Exactly. It makes the magic feel more real, more relatable,
Because it's tied to something familiar.
and maybe a little bit scary.
Yeah, it adds that extra layer.
It's like he's saying, hey, we all share these stories,
We're all part of this community.
and we can experience this magic together.
I love that.
It's about so much more than just the trick itself.
Right. It's about storytelling.
Exactly.
I feel.
And creating that sense of wonder.
And connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as Eric's story shows us,
Mhm.
magic can be this powerful tool for
Yeah.
building community
Yeah.
and inspiring change.
And leaving a mark on the world.
Exactly. It's really inspiring to see
It is.
how he's taken something like magic
Uh-huh.
and used it to do so much good.
It really makes you think.
It does.
Yeah.
So Eric used magic to connect with his community.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, how can we use our passions
Mm.
to create positive change?
That's a great question.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
we all have these unique gifts and talents.
Totally.
Things that light us up inside.
Absolutely.
But so often
Yeah.
they just stay hobbies, you know?
I know what you mean.
But what if we could use them to make a difference?
It's like, what are you passionate about?
Exactly. And how could you use that
Yeah.
to give back to your community?
It doesn't have to be anything huge.
No, not at all.
Even small things can have a big impact.
Like what? And just like Eric showed us,
Right.
you don't need fancy tricks or illusions.
Yeah.
It's about the heart.
The intention
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about using your passion
to connect with people,
and make a difference.
however big or small.
Yeah. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the incredible world of Eric Hogue,
The Magician Mayor.
the one and only,
Yeah.
I think we have one final question for you.
What's that?
What magic will you create?
It's time to find your own spark
Let it shine.
and make the world a little brighter.
Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Until next time,
Keep exploring
keep learning.
and keep diving deep.
See ya.